Happy Friday, ladies. It is me, Coach V, your new love strategist, coming before you for this week's MIT training video. Just, of course, here to help you when it comes to healing your heart, dating better, doing whatever is necessary for you to win at love. And what I want to talk about just for a few minutes today, as you can see by the title, it is going to be how to heal your heart so that you don't idolize the next man. This is something that I have fallen victim to before. This is something that even women that I've worked with, it's so easy to think that you're healed, that you're good to go, that you're going to do things differently the next time around. And because you've spent time alone, you've spent time working on yourself, whatever that might mean for you, you'll think that you'll get into the next relationship and everything is going to be good to go. You're going to know how to pace yourself, whatever. I always talk about how the relationship that comes after you start your healing journey is going to be the one that actually tests you the most. It is going to be the relationship that still shows the work that needs to be done inside of you. So like I said, I myself, along with other women, what ends up happening is you get into a relationship because you've been single for a while, you've been alone, you've been doing all the right things, you have all these boundaries that you say are going to exist. It's so easy to still find yourself in another relationship, idolizing that relationship, idolizing that man. Okay, I want to talk about why that happens. I want to talk about what that looks like. I want to talk about how to ensure that that is not something that you experience ever, or at least ever again. So let's talk first of all the subtle danger of idolizing a man. We already know that it's something that should not be happening, right? As Christians, we already know the Word of God talks about how there should be no other gods before me. But anything that we put above God, anything that we think about more than God, anything that consumes our thoughts more than God is something that we have now made an idol. It's something that I have seen many Christian women fall victim to, where, again, they can have a great relationship with God, read the Bible, go to church, all of these different things. They get into a relationship, all of that stuff starts going out the window. The boundaries, the time with God, going to church, whatever. All of those things now actually come before God, right? So it's very easy to start idolizing something, and it is a very, very dangerous place to be. Like God said, I am not going to have nothing that is going to come before me. So God will, first of all, either sabotage or wreck something or allow it to come crumbling if there's even a threat that there's going to be something that is going to be put before him. When it comes to idolizing and dating, as I said, this can be, and especially for those who have an anxious attachment style, you are preoccupied with that man. You are preoccupied with the potential and the possibility of what that relationship could be. It consumes your thoughts. You're steadily checking the phone, trying to see, did he text? Did he already text back? When you even hear your ringtone, you're getting excited, wondering if it's him. There are all of these things that can happen when it comes to idolatry in dating. And a lot of times it can feel spiritual. You'll think it's a connection. You'll think that it's God. You're thinking about the way that you two met. You're thinking about the way that he gets you, the way that he makes you feel, how he knows things that you've only said to God and no one else. But people don't realize that a lot of times it's really just emotional dependency. You're going based off of how that man makes you feel. You're going based on the emotions that are now coming up because of his presence. It doesn't mean that it is spiritual. It could be something that you are now emotionally dependent on because you didn't truly do the work while you were single. I always say there's nothing wrong with wanting a relationship. There's nothing wrong with desiring marriage, right? But there is a difference between desiring marriage and worshiping the idea of it. I have spoken to so many women who are currently wives, or even those who are ex-wives at this point, but so many people who are realizing, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Marriage is not for the faint of heart, right? Like, they are ready to acknowledge and admit that they actually worshipped and idolized the idea of marriage, but they were in no ways prepared to actually be a wife. And I get all marriages are different, right? But there are so many people who are in relationships right now all because they were rushing to be in one. There are so many people who are in marriages right now solely because they were rushing to get married, but they were not ready. And there are many people who are in fact regretting the person that they ended up with. I'll be honest myself and say right now, when I had a lot of people who were in my last relationship asking me, when are y'all going to get married? How long have y'all been together? Because in my mind, I was already kind of at the point where I'm like, I'm not about to idolize this. I want to be sure. I'll be with this man for 5 or 10 years first. But of course, obviously, if it's going to take that long, that right there is a sign in and of itself. I wanted to make sure that I was not going to find myself in something that I was going to regret. So I got out of it. Great man. I was like, but this is not the man for me. He can go and be with someone else, but I know that I want more. So I did not want to fall into that trap, which, if I can be honest, if this was a man that I had met maybe 5-10 years ago, I probably would have married him, because that was a point in my life where I was so caught up with the idea of love and marriage and commitment that I would have accepted anything. And this is why I say you really need to take a season out from dating, interacting with men, and truly heal and work on yourself so that you don't find yourself in something that's a little bit harder to get out of. So like I said, I have spoken with several women who can now acknowledge, like, if I could do it all over again, I would not have married my husband. Or those who are now divorced, like, I knew that I should have never married him, but it is what it is. This is why all of these things matter. It's important for you to know the dangers of idolizing a man now while you are single, before you find yourself in something, before the next relationship shows up. So let's go a little bit deeper. Exactly what does idolizing look like? Because it can come in many different ways, shapes, forms, whatever the case might be. One thing that I talk about a lot is the emotional escalation. When you find yourself emotionally escalating or investing too quickly, it shows that you are idolizing that man or that relationship. When it's like week 2 and you're already planning a future, we got a problem. Where it's very early on, and like I said, your best friend or your sister or whatever is already referring to him as brother-in-law, it's a problem. You're already thinking about double dates and all this other stuff. It's a problem. When you are feeling attached before compatibility is even confirmed, you have emotionally escalated. When there is anxiety, anytime there's a slight shift in communication or something like that, you have already emotionally escalated too quickly. Another sign would also be over-spiritualizing basic attraction. Thinking, this man must be sent by God after like very minimal evidence. He has done the basics. There's really not a whole proof of anything. And now here you are thinking, this man is from God. You will go and assign purpose to chemistry. Chemistry is one of the easiest things, right? Naturally, a lot of us, we might go based off of vibes or energy or whatever it is that you want to call it. But a wise person knows to use discernment in all of their relationships. And if you go and assign purpose to something where it's just solely based on feelings, then you are over-spiritualizing basic attraction. This could also be ignoring any of the red flags, all because it feels ordained. Think about how many times you look back after a relationship ended and you were able to realize, like, the signs were there. I kind of knew what was going on, but I stayed. I was hoping it was going to change, or he had all these amazing qualities. No, that is when you are justifying certain things just to maintain the connection. What about losing emotional objectivity? That's another thing. When you are excusing a man's inconsistencies, when you are downplaying the fact that you and that man are not aligned, when you are tolerating any type of confusion or disruption to your peace just to avoid losing him, that means that you have lost all emotional objectivity, which is another sign that you are idolizing this man or this relationship. I will say that it happens a lot because of identity struggles and identity attachment. A woman who does not, when you don't really know yourself, right? When you have not yet gotten to that place of self-awareness, it is so easy to lose yourself in a relationship. This is why I always say find yourself or know yourself before dating or before a relationship. If you don't know who you are, you will become exactly who and what a man wants you to be. I know too many women who spent so much time solely focused on becoming a wife, and they didn't even really know anything about themselves. They had all of their dreams and goals, ambitions, everything else was put on the back burner. businesses that they were supposed to start, ministries that God had given them, gifts that God was waiting on her to use. All of those things were neglected because all of her time, energy, effort, money, everything went into becoming a wife. This is an example of abandoning your identity. Identity attachment is when you are so focused on seeing yourself as being a wife. You're imagining yourself as being a wife or being his wife prematurely. You don't even know if this man is going to be a good husband. You don't even know if he has what it takes, the character traits, in order to be a godly husband. But all you know is that you see yourself being a wife. You see yourself being his wife. So therefore, you've created some fantasy as to what it's going to look like. Shifting a lot of your routines or standards just to fit him. That means that there is an identity attachment. When you are prioritizing potential over peace, you're thinking about what things could be, what they might look like, even though there's some discomfort and frustration right now, even when you're not currently at peace. But it's like, you know what? I know what it could potentially be one day. That's another identity attachment. Fear-based decision making. There are so many women who will settle because options are limited. Or it's like, yeah, they have an idea of what it is they want in a man, but it's like, oh, well, I'm probably not going to get all of these things, so at least a man is doing this. At least this guy does this because the last guy didn't even do that. You'll end up making a fear-based decision all because of fear at the end of the day. Or when you stay because you have a fear of starting over. It's like, you know what? I don't feel like going back out on these dating streets. Let me try to make it work with this dude that I'm with. That is fear-based decision making. Or panicking at the thought of losing that man. You can't imagine not being in a relationship with him. That is fear-based decision making. Can you relate to any of those? You already knew that that question was coming, right? I want to know if you are someone who finds yourself already envisioning and thinking about what that next relationship is going to be. Are you someone who has previously idolized a man or a relationship before? It happens for many different reasons. Of course, I'll say that the top one is having any type of unhealed abandonment wounds. When you have a fear of abandonment, fear of being left, fear of being rejected, you will start overcompensating just to secure that connection. You don't want to lose him, you don't want to lose it, and it will cause you to idolize that next relationship. If there's any type of emotional starvation, if you are currently lonely, and if you're single and frustrated, then yeah, right now that means you're craving affection. And this is how women will confuse attention with alignment. They'll think just because a man is consistent when it comes to reaching out and communication, that means that they are in alignment and that is someone that they should actually give their time and attention to. Cultural and church pressure is one of the top reasons why a lot of Christian women find themselves idolizing men in relationships. It's almost as if idolizing marriage is proof, right? Like proof that you're taking this thing serious, proof that you're not out here dating just to be dating. There's all of these fears that are constant and constantly running through women's mind. They feel that they're being left behind. They're feeling like, even with the societal pressures, they feel like they're just so far behind. And, you know, I'm this age and I thought by now I would have been married. They just feel so behind in life. So again, because of the church, cultural, societal pressures, this is why women will get into a relationship and they'll almost force it to work with that man. All of these things that are lying to them. Fantasy bonding. I've done that before. I'm sure plenty of you have as well. Falling in love with an imagined future. You're imagining what it could look like, even though everything right now in front of you is showing it's not going to get that way. Now, of course, we know faith and possibility and potential, yes, but something inside of you can be telling you it's not going to get where you want it to be, but because you are falling in love with what it could be, it'll make you stay. It's now a fantasy bond. This is why you'll end up attaching to potential and you will overlook reality. What about lack of self-concept? First of all, self-awareness is a big thing. You have to know who you are, what you want, and what you deserve. But also lack of self-concept. When you have your identity rooted in your relationship status, you can guarantee that you will just about fall for anything or any man just for the sake of your status changing. It's like you need a man or you need partnership in order for you to feel chosen or to feel valued or to feel loved. I don't want you having any type of idolatry in your heart. That is something that you need to work on now before even thinking about dating or before getting into that next relationship. Order matters at the end of the day. I always say Matthew 6:33, it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. Seek first the kingdom of God. That means seeking him first, putting him above everything else. Ensuring that you are living righteously. Are you walking in obedience? Are you honoring God right now with your heart posture, with the things that you actually say, with the things that you speak, with the things that you do? How is it evident right now that God is first in your life? Because when you seek him first and when you live righteously, you will get all that you need. This is likened to Psalm 37:4, where it says, delight yourself in the Lord and he'll give you the desires of your heart. Make sure that you are delighting in him. Make sure that you are seeking in him. Make sure that you are aligned with him, dwelling in his love and being in his presence. And then, yes, he will give you the desires of your heart. But order matters. And too many of you right now, you are wanting things that you are not even aligned and in order with. So you need to look inwardly and decide what is it that needs to change in your life right now so that you can get to where you want to be. You don't want a man to become your source of peace. I can admit that was something I kind of found myself, however you want to word it, but I found myself in that position where it's like it just felt like that man was my source of peace. And I loved it. I was always smiling. I was happy. It just brought this joy into my life. And very quickly I realized this is no longer peace. This is no longer peaceful. And this man is not supposed to be the source of my peace. Peace is something I already have. Jesus said this was something he was leaving with me. Peace is also a fruit of the Spirit. So how am I making someone who's not even the author of peace and the giver of peace the source of my peace? It's not making any sense. There was idolatry that was going on in my heart. When disappointment starts shaking your faith, there is something to be examined further. It means you need to start looking a little bit deeper. God is not going to compete with what you elevate. Okay? What are you going to elevate? It should be God. It should be God. It should be self-love. It should be self-awareness. It should be your purpose and your gifts and things like that. Those should be the focus. God first, and then, of course, all of those other things. But God is not out to compete with what it is you are determined to elevate. So let's talk really quickly. I want to make sure that this is something that you deal with and heal from so that you do not repeat this pattern going forward. How to heal? One thing would be you have to slow the emotional pace. Once you start dating, once you're involved with the man, there's going to be no future planning that is going to be taking place early. No premature exclusivity that's going on in your mind. Be wise. Use this time to observe his character and get to know him as a person without automatically assuming that he is supposed to be your partner. Also, I would tell you, build a full life now. What are some of the things that you've always wanted to do? Do you have a solid social circle? Do you go out? Do you have hobbies? How is your physical health? What are your financial goals? What are some things that you've always wanted to try, whether it's an art class, a cooking class? I don't know. Do something. Think about purpose, friendships, structure, whatever, because fulfillment ultimately shrinks fantasy. When you are working on feeling fulfilled right now, you don't have time having your head in the clouds about what might happen and what could be and about the potential of a man. No. Okay? Also, regulate before you react. And what I mean by that is when feelings start coming up, especially in a new relationship, learn to sit with that anxiety before you react. Learn to sit with that anxiety instead of texting or over communicating or trying to get attention. This is why it's so important for you to know and learn your attachment triggers. Learn the things that actually get to you and might cause you to spiral a little bit in relationships so that you can identify where they come from and so that you can work on them and work through them before the man arrives, before it's time for the next relationship. require evidence over emotion. Watch patterns. Observe carefully. See what a man's character is all about. Look for consistency. Make sure that you are evaluating suitability, which is going to be very easy if you are someone who has a high level of self-awareness. When you really know who you are, that means you also know what you need. You know what you offer. You know what it is going to balance you out. You know what is going to be suitable and complementary to you. You'll date better. So make sure that anytime you meet and connect with the man, more than anything, you're determining, is this man suitable for where I am now and where it is that I know that I am going? That is going to help you determine whether you need to pass, pause, or proceed. One thing that's going to be hard, I would also say, separate desire from discernment. We got desires all day, right? But a lot of us can now look back and realize that a lot of the things that we desired were not good for us. So you can want a man, that's cool. But while you're wanting him, make sure that you are assessing him, that you are using wisdom and you are determining if this man even deserves access to you. Attraction does not override standards at the end of the day, okay? Lastly, I would say develop identity outside of a relationship, and regardless of what your relationship status is. Who are you without a relationship? Who are you without male validation? What anchors you besides romance, besides connection, besides intimacy? Healing is important because you have all of these different things that it is going to produce inside of you when you do it for real. When you truly heal, not the fake healing, not the starting the healing, not the saying I'm healing, but when you take time to intentionally heal and reset, you don't have to worry about any more false alarms. You won't find yourself idolizing the next relationship, because what healing does, it produces peace instead of panic. It produces curiosity instead of obsession. It will produce stability instead of fantasy. It is also going to produce confidence instead of fear of loss. It is also going to produce discernment instead of desperation. It is time to break the patterns and the cycles that you have been in for years now. For many, many, many years now. It is time to break it, okay? Awareness without action changes absolutely nothing. I see women sometimes talk about, oh, I know what my red flags are. I know the red flags I overlook. I know the things that I keep on repeating. I know God is probably sick of me always dealing with the same man. And I see women laughing and joking about things that really need to be taken a little bit more serious. Being aware means nothing if you're not going to change anything. You already know what your pattern is. Information, though, it is not transformation. What are you going to do with the information that you have? You have to decide that you are going to heal, that you are going to get serious about it. And if you are someone who cannot do it alone, because a lot of women can't, then it is okay with admitting that your healing might actually require structure and accountability. So if this is you, cool. It just means we got some work to do. Doesn't mean that you're too far gone. It just means you're unexamined, and it means that you have some things that you need help tending to. This is why I have the Relationship Reset Intensive. I've been talking about it a little bit already over the past week, I think at this point. But this intensive, it's a 90-minute session, and it's for women who want to interrupt idolization, idolatry. They want to break all the attachment cycles. They want to stop repeating the patterns that are getting them nowhere with dating, with men, and relationships. We're going to do a deep dive into your attachment style. We're going to identify your blind spots. And we're going to build a structure. I'm even going to map you out a 90-day plan, something that you can implement. We're going to build that structure out that is going to protect your heart, and that is going to get you several steps closer to where it is that you want to be in a happy, healthy, holy relationship at the end of the day. Healing is a decision, all right? And the next man should not be your savior. So let's get you together. Let's focus on you and God. We'll think about him later.